Chapter 1177. Guan Guan. Am I dreaming? My eyes must be playing tricks on me, right? How could this be possible? This bunch of trash, how could they possibly have such powerful strength? Right. We must be dreaming. The people from the Shangguan clan stared at the aggressive students in front of them in disbelief. They couldn't believe it. This bunch of students were obviously trash. Each and every one of them only knew how to use the power of profound qi. It was obvious that this group of trash was being chased around the arena and was covered in wounds by Shangguan Lioli. How could this bunch of trash possibly? How could they possibly become so powerful? The lowest profound grade was actually at mystic profound 6th grade realm. Their hearts suddenly trembled. Dumbstruck, the Shangguan family's men almost fainted. What the? This was too heaven-defying. A bunch of trash had turned into geniuses. This was simply the biggest joke in the world. Brothers, let's annihilate our devil class's disrespectful enemies. Yiqing Luo's voice was filled with ruthlessness and iciness. Her words had just landed. The drunken students behind him had already rushed forward like a swarm of bees. Just as what Yiqing Luo said. Although they were drunk, their hearts weren't. Their bodies' instincts had replaced everything. Kill. Blindly kill. Kill all these people who dared to hurt their brothers. Butler Shangguan finally realized how dumb he was. He couldn't tell the changes in devil class's students and even argued with third head Yuqi. Now he personally felt the power of devil class's students and felt Yiqing Luo's power. Turning around, he wanted to make use of the chaos to escape. Just as he got out of the crowd, his figure flashed towards the dead tree in the dark. Boom! A huge explosion sound was heard and a deep pit exploded right beside Butler Shangguan's feet. Smoke and dust curled up and the remnant profound energy was still faintly floating. Just one step. Just one step away. If earlier Butler Shangguan had taken another step forward, the one who was blasted into a deep pit would be him. Butler Shangguan still had a lingering fear in his heart. He shivered as he looked in the direction of the attack. The red-clothed girl smiled sweetly and waved her red fan lightly. Housekeeper Shangguan, are you planning to escape by yourself and leave all these profound practitioners here? When the students who were filled with fear heard this, their faces immediately darkened. Pairs of angry eyes looked at the Shangguan family's butler. He caught a glimpse of the Shangguan family steward, who was actually outside of the crowd beside a withered tree. The people from the Shangguan clan immediately understood. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo's profound qi that stopped Butler Shangguan had obviously escaped from here, even though the back mountain had been sealed by the barrier. But he had been hiding in the dark, avoiding Yiqing Luo and the others. By the time Yiqing Luo and the others thought of a way to undo the enchantment, it wasn't impossible for him to seize the opportunity to escape. Thinking of this, the faces of the Shangguan family members turned ashen, and their faces were filled with rage. Chamberlain Shangguan, these profound practitioners were all brought here by you. Shouldn't you be responsible for them? She stopped waving her fan, placed it under her chin and began to fan the flames. You slut. Butler Shangguan looked at those people from the Shangguan family, as all of them revealed a vengeful expression. As for Yiqing Luo, she was still standing by the side, smiling charmingly with a peerless beauty. Chapter 1178. Profound qi in the air formed airwaves. One wave after another rolling like a tide. That huge axe carried a thick murderous aura. In this instance, it actually reached the earth profound 3rd grade realm. That's right. Butler Shangguan had advanced in this desperate situation. This was anger, disregarding everything, not caring about his life, attacking the protective consciousness in his body, forcefully advancing. His eyes were scarlet red, the huge axe's profound light as though it was tearing the air apart. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly, her figure swiftly extended like a ghost. She stuck close to Butler Shangguan. The glower flame fan in her hand suddenly closed. She fiercely knocked on his back a few times. That arrogant Butler Shangguan immediately felt a heart-wrenching pain in his body, as though his internal organs were about to be torn apart. He steadied himself in the room. He fell from mid-air in a sorry state, heavily crashing onto the ground. The huge black axe smashed onto the ground, giving off a heavy sound. Slut. Butler Shangguan half propped himself up as he gritted his teeth and spat out 2 words. Sinister eyes as fierce as a wild beast. After spitting out 2 words, he spat out another mouthful of blood. Just based on trash like you and you want to kill me? Yiqing Luo lifted her leg and without hesitation stepped on Butler Shangguan's chest. Just based on this bunch of trash that you brought and you want to kill my devil class? Using force, she stepped down fiercely. Ah! A heart-wrenching howl exploded from Butler Shangguan's mouth. His chest was directly stomped by Yiqing Luo a hole. A steady flow of fresh blood from the skeleton continued to be used. His chest was in extreme pain. It affected his entire body, causing excruciating pain. But Butler Shangguan was still conscious. He could clearly feel that his chest was constantly gushing out blood. His blood was flowing out. He could even clearly feel that death was so close, so close. Don't worry. Before you see with your own eyes how these people from the Shangguan family die for you, I won't take your life. Words that seemed to be comforting clearly rang in the Shangguan family steward's ears. He frowned in pain. It was just a simple frown, but it affected the wound on his chest, causing him immense pain. I'm an apothecary and I know how much blood there is in a person's body. I also know that the rate at which you're losing blood is enough for you to watch the Shangguan clan members die one by one in front of you. Yiqing Luo continued to laugh as she spoke. Housekeeper Shangguan's eyes widened in horror as he stared at Yiqing Luo fiercely. Devil! You devil! The blood shadow saber light scattered over the entire land. Yiqing Luo maintained her sweet and innocent smile as she looked at the stacked corpses without any change in her expression. Fresh blood dyed her enchanting eyes red. It made her even more breathtaking. Butler Shangguan lay on the ground, motionless. Blood was still flowing out. He could feel the dizziness and pain of blood loss. But unfortunately, not knowing what Yiqing Luo did to him, his consciousness became clearer and clearer. From the initial shock, to seeing the people from the Shangguan family dying tragically under the feet of the devil class, to the final numbness. There was no feeling. There was no feeling at all. Looking at those young and immature faces, it was obvious that they were drunk. But they were fighting a bloody battle. The red uniform mixed with the fresh blood was extremely glaring. On their faces there was no fear of killing, no shock of killing. Chapter 1179. Those youths were drunk and unconscious. They were only moving based on their instincts. Then what about Yiqing Luo? He was obviously conscious. But facing such a large-scale massacre, how could she remain so calm? A 15-year-old young lady. Merely a 15-year-old young lady. Facing such a bloody massacre scene, there was no fluctuation of emotions. As though she was already used to such scenes. This knowledge caused Butler Shangguan's heart to suddenly tighten. Until now he finally knew clearly. He had offended a malefic star that he shouldn't have. This bunch of youngsters in devil class were simply a bunch of perverts. A bunch of terrifying perverts. But unfortunately, this knowledge could not make him turn back. A dead man's mouth was the tightest. Butler Shangguan and these people from Shangguan family. All of them would shut their mouths forever for devil class's secret. The ground was filled with blood and corpses. Yiqing Luo and the rest were already used to this thick blood stench as they didn't show any signs of discomfort. In this vicious battle, those originally drunk students started to sober up one by one. Seeing the ground filled with blood as well as their own bodies, hands and even their brothers' faces which were covered in blood. Very quickly they understood what had happened. Madam Qing Luo. Aren't we very powerful? We killed so many people. We're simply too awesome. We were so drunk but we still managed to kill all 400 of them. I worship myself too much. How could we be so powerful? The students' faces were filled with joy as they didn't care about their disheveled state as they directly surrounded Yiqing Luo. That expression of seeking for praise, seeking for appreciation and seeking for recognition, made Yiqing Luo laugh. Long Yunzhan, Qiao Jin and the rest stood by the side as they wiped off the blood stains on their hands while shaking their heads helplessly. Indeed, letting Qing Luo guide the students is the right choice. Look. This bunch of abnormal students. Yan Xiaoyi coughed lightly. Actually, I want to say I don't know this bunch of people. Mou Ying nodded expressionlessly. After the laughter, Yiqing Luo looked at the sky. It was probably almost 5 o'clock in the morning. Not long later, everyone would be waking up. If they stayed here any longer, those students or masters would discover the hundreds of corpses from Shangguan family. Not to mention the fact that they would be detained and expose the true strength of the devil class students. Most importantly, these people were all from the Shangguan family. To die in the hands of their devil class. The people from the Shangguan family would definitely not let this matter rest. The current devil class still possessed the ability to clash with the large clans. She was not afraid of anything. But if the other party were to attack the other students in the dark, it was just like kidnapping Yi Fengyu. She would definitely be restrained. Yi Qingluo cleared her throat and clapped her hands. All right, the surroundings have been set up with an enchantment barrier. Let's find the base of the enchantment first before thinking of a way to break it. He had just tested it. There was no way to forcibly break the barrier by using profound qi. Furthermore, this spirit formation gave off an extremely familiar feeling. At this moment she didn't have time to think about it. If he wanted to break the spirit formation, he would have to first find the foundation of the spirit formation. Then he would have to find a way to break the spirit formation. More than 60 people were divided into 11 groups of 6. Every group had a class committee member. Whereas for Yi Qingluo's group, because Yan Xiaoyi was injured on the arena stage, Yi Qingluo directly brought her along. Chapter 1180. After searching for an entire 1 hour, the sky had already started to turn white. 11 teams had yet to find the base of the barrier. They were unable to leave the entire rear mountain. But they weren't able to find the base of the barrier. Seeing that time was running out, Yi Qingluo's heart was getting more and more anxious. 2 consecutive times she had suffered a loss in the barrier. She had decided, after leaving the rear mountain, she must obtain the secret manual to set up the barrier and break the barrier from Zhou Xian or Old Man Tsang. Boss Qingluo, the sky is already bright. Today is the semi-finals for the other classes, so they will definitely come to the rear mountain for their morning training. What kind of damn barrier is this? We can't even break it forcefully. Shangguan family intentionally wants to seal us in the rear mountain. The students' emotions started to get restless. They were all clear that if they were discovered, the rear mountain waste would be littered with corpses and devil classes students would be standing beside those corpses. How serious the consequences would be. Perhaps. Shangguan family originally had this idea in mind. If they died, they would forcefully drag devil class down with them. As long as devil class lost their lives during the competition period, they would definitely be forcefully disqualified from the competition. Yi Qingluo's brows creased tightly as she shot a glance at Long Yunzhan and lowered her voice. Ah Zhan, Earth Profound 7th grade profound energy is unable to break the barrier, but if combined with Qi, can it be? One was a human dragon. The other was a sacred beast. If the 2 powers were combined, perhaps they could forcefully break the barrier. Long Yunzhan nodded calmly. We can give it a try. Yi Qingluo was about to summon Qi. Suddenly the rear mountain waste started to shake. The ground beneath their feet started to crack. Devil classes students' expressions congealed as they instinctively stuck together as they stared vigilantly at the surroundings. But they saw. The transparent and invisible barrier that had trapped them in the back mountain for more than an hour was now covered by a lustrous white radiance. Following that barrier suddenly disappeared. A student tried to walk out of the position which was obstructed earlier. Without any obstruction, he directly passed through the rear mountain and walked forward for another 10 over steps. There was no obstruction at all. That barrier had really disappeared. The student turned his head as he excitedly wanted to tell Yi Qingluo. But before he could say anything, he saw a jade green figure was walking towards Yi Qingluo. She was graceful and graceful. Her posture was elegant and gentle. Her long hair was like flowing clouds, and it was a delicate young lady's hair, pinned with an exquisite hairpin. On the other hand, the most striking part was the jade-colored ribbon that hung vertically on her hair. It hung down to her shoulder and fluttered with the wind, causing her to have a unique charm. Beautiful. This girl was very beautiful. It was the kind of cold and holy beauty. She was different from his master's stunning beauty. Who is she? The student was filled with doubts as he walked towards Yi Qingluo's direction. He then realized that Yi Qingluo's expression was extremely ugly. The woman who appeared was none other than the one who had been chasing after Zhou Xian since young. On account of the underground palace's old grandma, Zhou Xian only treated her as his younger sister, Feng Ling. That person was extremely sensitive to barriers. That woman who was a natural-born world spiritist. He was actually saved by her? Yiqing Luo's desire to learn the method of setting up and deciphering the enchantment grew stronger by the minute. What are you doing here? Yiqing Luo asked coldly. Towards this Feng Ling who had the intention to spy on Zhou Xian, Yiqing Luo couldn't bring herself to like her at all. Chapter 1181. Feng Ling's hand had just held onto Yiqing Luo when Yiqing Luo pulled it away. Not to mention the scene she saw in the illusion, it made Yiqing Luo have a natural hostility towards Feng Ling. Let's talk about how he first met wind chimes in the tunnel. Yiqing Luo was very clear that this woman absolutely adored Zhou Xian from the bottom of her heart. Moreover, this woman was definitely not as gentle and tranquil as she appeared on the surface. Especially, her words were full of loopholes. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up as she gave a distant smile. There's no need for an apology. Sister Qing Luo. Feng Ling's smile froze as she awkwardly retracted her frozen hand. She bit her lower lip and looked at Yiqing Luo innocently. He looked extremely aggrieved. If there were others around, they would probably think that Yiqing Luo was bullying this delicate and weak little beauty. However, there was no one else on the mountainside. Miss Feng. Yiqing Luo interrupted Feng Ling's words as she looked at her with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Ever since we came out from the underground tunnel, Xian had always been with me. May I ask Miss Feng, when did you hear about the matter between Xian and me? Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to waste any more time on her when she saw that she still wanted to act like a Saint Mother White Lotus until it bloomed. He immediately seized the loophole in Wind Chime's words to shut her up. The barrier was still broken, so they had to leave this place immediately. The morning exercise students would be here soon. At that time, they were in big trouble. Yiqing Luo led the devil class's students as they walked past the corpses, towards the direction of the dormitory. However, Yiqing Luo had obviously underestimated Feng Ling's shamelessness. Windling did not show the slightest bit of embarrassment because her lie was exposed. On the contrary, she quickly chased up to Yiqing Luo's footsteps as her voice was gentle and delicate. Sister Qing Luo, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, Brother D and I are just ordinary siblings. I just don't wish for you to misunderstand. She chased after him very quickly. Yiqing Luo, who was walking ahead, suddenly stopped in her tracks. Feng Ling bumped into Yiqing Luo's back, staggered and hurriedly retreated a few steps. He lowered his head submissively, looking as if he had been humiliated and wronged. Yiqing Luo slowly turned around as she squinted her eyes slightly, and the sharp glint in her eyes fell onto Feng Ling. Her smile was extremely shallow with a tinge of coldness. Miss Feng, you can be at ease, the relationship between you and Xian. I will absolutely not have any misunderstanding, do you know why? Feng Ling was stunned, her clear eyes stared at Yiqing Luo in a daze, her eyes filled with astonishment. Because Yiqing Luo's smile deepened. That smile was enchanting, elegant and beautiful. Even for Feng Ling, this smile tugged at a string in her heart. The gentle and tranquil expression on her face completely froze. I don't care about you at all. His words struck Wind Chime's eardrums. From the start, he did not put her in his eyes at all. Everything that he had done in Yiqing Luo's eyes was just a joke? No, impossible. She was Brother D's most beloved Xiaoling. She was the woman closest to Brother D. Yiqing Luo wanted to snatch Brother D from her. How could he not put her in his eyes? Wasn't Yiqing Luo's biggest love rival her? Her inner heart was unable to calm down. Feng Ling's expression was steely green as she clenched her fists tightly. Her jade green sleeves, because of the strength from her fingertips, were folded into creases. Miss Feng, before you want to sow discord between Xian and me, you'd better do some investigation first. Yiqing Luo slightly bent down as she leaned towards her ear as she laughed softly. Chapter 1182. Feng Ling's face turned as white as a sheet. Her frail body swayed slightly. After some time her legs gave way and she fell onto the ground. Her gentle and exquisite face could no longer maintain her gentleness. Yiqing Luo had never bothered about those unimportant people. Leading the group of people from devil class, she left without even turning her head back. The mountain breeze was still blowing. The stench of blood was extremely thick. Feng Ling didn't seem to feel the blood around her. His entire person had sunk into extreme rage. A strong hatred was burning in her heart. Why? Yiqing Luo was totally unaffected by her. Why did she want Yiqing Luo to doubt Zhou Xian and cause a quarrel between them? But Yiqing Luo didn't care at all. She was too confident in Zhou Xian. Or was she too confident in herself? No. Impossible. Grandma said before, any woman, as long as she was a woman, would have a strong possessive heart. Women were the most jealous existences. As long as the people and things that they treasured were being spied on by others, they would definitely lose all rationality and forcefully take back the people or things that belonged to them. How could Yiqing Luo not be affected by her? She didn't even put her in her eyes? She gripped her jade-colored sleeves tightly as her eyes were filled with ruthlessness, filled with murderous intent. She must kill Yiqing Luo. Definitely. Miss Feng. Behind her, a cold voice was heard. Feng Ling didn't turn back. Her expression was ruthless as she gritted her teeth and said, "All right, I agree to cooperate with you as long as. Leave Yiqing Luo that slut to me." "No problem." The gloomy voice laughed coldly. Following that black-robed man walked closer and stood behind Feng Ling. A piece of red cloth the size of a palm landed beside Feng Ling. The cloth fluttered with the wind. Above it floated half a cherry blossom. Feng Ling grabbed that cloth tightly as she was so exasperated that she wanted to tear that cloth. This thing can be put to good use. A cold smile with a treacherous plot. After returning to the dormitory, the group of people got drunk again and had another big battle. Returning to their respective rooms, they uniformly fell onto the bed and fell into a deep sleep. Yiqing Luo no longer felt sleepy. Her mind was filled with Feng Ling's innocent face. Of course, this was not because Feng Ling's words made her feel a sense of danger. After being together with Zhou Xian for a period of time, how would Yiqing Luo not know his character and character? Since Zhou Xian said so, it had nothing to do with Feng Ling. Naturally, it had nothing to do with him. She did not take Feng Ling seriously at all. What she was thinking about was the reason why wind chimes appeared at the mountainside at the back of the mountain. It was just the hour of the tiger, and wind chimes was already at the mountainside at the back? He even removed the barrier and took the initiative to express his goodwill. Yiqing Luo absolutely did not believe that Feng Ling just happened to pass by. The aura of that barrier. He felt very familiar. Until the appearance of Feng Ling, Yiqing Luo finally understood that spirit formation's aura was extremely similar to the spirit formation formed by the Earth Wolf Saint technique. It was the dark forces that had established the barrier for Butler Shangguan and the others. In other words, the Shangguan family was very likely to be investigated by the various superpowers because of her questioning of the Shangguan family. It was to the extent that he had no choice but to cooperate with the dark forces, which solidified his infamy. And Feng Ling's appearance at this moment. There was also a possibility that, because of Zhou Xian, the dark forces had caught hold of a gap. Yiqing Luo's slender brows instantly creased tightly. Chapter 1183. Feng Ling was the granddaughter of the underground palace's old granny. She grew up in the imperial palace and was one of them. Feng Ling and the dark forces were involved, which meant that the imperial palace was also involved with the dark forces. And now, Zhou Xian was on bad terms with the dark forces because of Wolf Saint's assassination. If at this time Feng Ling placed the imperial palace's future in the dark forces' hands, it would definitely be a huge problem for Zhou Xian. And it was a problem that was hard to solve. This Feng Ling. Was she really that stupid? Yiqing Luo was deeply worried. It was better to find a chance to tell Zhou Xian about her guess, so that Zhou Xian would at least be prepared for it. She stretched her waist. Since she couldn't sleep, she might as well go into the Azure Dew bracelet to raise her strength. Not knowing how long had passed, Yiqing Luo could vaguely hear a clamor coming from the outside world. She retracted her spiritual consciousness and opened her eyes. She saw a black shadow floating outside her room door. Only to hear an angry dispute outside. "Get out of my way. Otherwise I will shred you into pieces right now." Shangguan Great Master Qing Luo is resting in the room. "If there's anything we can talk on the stage tomorrow. Today is devil class's free time." Long Yunzhan's cold voice was neither servile nor overbearing. Hearing the few words "First Master Shangguan," Yiqing Luo's heart instantly sunk. Shangguan family's people? Looking for her? Could it be? The matter at the back of the mountain had been discovered? Was it Feng Ling who leaked the secret? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she got up from the bed. Her slender fingers casually fiddled with her fine black hair as she opened the room door. He saw a man with a strong body like a bull grabbing Qiao Jin's collar. Behind him were 10 over Shangguan family's guards. Beside Xiao Jin were 10 over Devil class's students, each of them shouting angrily, asking him to let go of Xiao Jin. Apparently they had been arguing for a long time. Seeing Yiqing Luo appear, that wild bull man shook off Xiao Jin and strode towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Stretching out that pair of arms which were thicker than Yiqing Luo's entire body, he directly grabbed Yiqing Luo. Slut. You actually made a move on Shangguan family's people. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes. The man's strength was extremely great. When he swung his hand over, it stirred up a strong airflow. However, that thick and solid arm grabbed onto Yiqing Luo but grabbed onto thin air. The barbarian bullman's face was ashen. He followed the aura in anger and punched the side of his body. Unexpectedly, the man felt a dull pain in his abdomen, and his 2-meter-tall body was actually forced to take a few steps back. His face instantly darkened. He clutched his stomach and glared fiercely at the person who injured him. Her red dress fluttered like a blooming rose. Yiqing Luo stood lazily by the side, her body leaning softly on Yan Xiaoyi's shoulder. She covered her mouth with her slender fingers and yawned without a care for her image. Head Shangguan, you came looking for me so aggressively early in the morning. Could it be that you lost the semi-finals again? Just as she finished speaking, she saw a furry little head burrowing into her bosom. Kitty Lee's little hands circled around Yiqing Luo's slender waist. Sister, Intermediate Profound Class 2's qualification for the competition has already been disqualified by the director. So in today's semi-finals, there's no Intermediate Profound Class 2. Her expression was innocent and pure. Her bright eyes were like luminous pearls, flickering with a trace of craftiness. Chapter 1184. Shangguan Great Master's face was filled with rage. That extremely ferocious face was sinister and terrifying. These two young ladies echoed each other, obviously purposely ridiculing the Shangguan family. Ridiculing them for being disqualified from the competition by the Heavenly Academy. Ridiculing them as a complete joke. New hatred and old hatred made the anger in Shangguan Great Master's eyes burn even more vigorously. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she didn't see his furious expression as she calmly caressed Kitty Lee's little head. Intermediate Profound Class 2 disqualification is merely Shangguan Lioli reaping the consequences of his own actions. What has it got to do with me? Isn't it a little far-fetched for Shangguan Great Master to look for me? Are you still acting dumb? Shangguan Great Master stretched out his arm once again, stirring up an intense burst of profound energy as the surrounding air shook apart. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. This raging bull still hadn't learnt to be smart? She sneered as she swiftly moved a few steps forward. His figure appeared behind the great head Shangguan. She raised her leg and gave a fierce kick towards his knees. A crack sound was heard. Shangguan Great Master's tall body staggered a few steps and finally couldn't endure the pain as he knelt heavily onto the ground. That kneeling sound was earth-shattering. Everyone who heard this sound couldn't help but touch their own knees. Ah! A miserable shriek was heard from Shangguan Great Master's mouth. Beads of cold sweat rolled down from his forehead. Slut! What have you done to our Great Master? Shangguan family's guards all rushed forward as they surrounded Shangguan Great Master. A few of them immediately went to support Shangguan Great Master. Yiqing Luo's smile was like a flower as her charming eyes circulated with an enchanting splendor. I was merely defending myself and didn't violate the Heavenly Academy's rules. Twice in a row the head of Shangguan was kicked by a young girl who looked so small, and then his kneecap was directly broken. Shangguan Great Master finally understood why Fifth Miss hated this young lady so much. Because this young lady was simply too hateful. Yiqing Luo, you massacred my Shangguan family's 340 people. And today you spoke rudely to me and insulted me. I have the right to send you to the main courtyard. Your devil class is disqualified from the competition. The first head Shangguan endured the sharp pain in his knees and roared while gnashing his teeth. At this moment he couldn't even stand steadily. His eyes were scarlet red as he clenched his fists tightly, as though he wanted to punch Yiqing Luo's face, which was filled with ridicule, into two halves. As expected, the Shangguan family had already discovered the corpses on the back of the mountain. However, how could the Shangguan family place her as their first suspect? Devil class was known to be a trash class. How could a bunch of trash students defeat 340 profound practitioners from the Shangguan clan? It was impossible no matter how he thought about it. Why did head Shangguan still look for her? He couldn't figure out where the great leader got the news from. Yiqing Luo remained expressionless. Massacre? I only defeated Shangguan Lioli yesterday. Is that considered a massacre? Moreover, 340 people? Are you sure I have the ability to massacre your Shangguan family's 340 people? Yiqing Luo looked at him with a, "Are you sick?" expression and immediately rolled her eyes. Great Master Shangguan, if you want to slander me, then find a better reason. Who would believe you if you say it out like this? Shangguan's face turned red. Shangguan Great Master's chest was bullied by Yiqing Luo's words as he flew into a rage. He struggled to pounce towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Chapter 1185. The guards understood it very well. If Great Master Shangguan were to strike Yiqing Luo again, it wouldn't just be his knee that was broken. Both parties were in a deadlock. Two elders from the main courtyard hurried over. One of them was Supreme Mo, who was disguised as Wind. The minute the two elders came over, Great Master Shangguan gritted his teeth and swiftly recounted the earlier situation to the Great Elder. The main courtyard's elder had just rushed over from the West Square as his white brows creased tightly. "Student Yi, what else do you have to say?" Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. "Elder, don't tell me you also believe that my devil class is able to slaughter his Shangguan family's 300 over people?" She smiled and her eyes instantly became cold. Her voice also turned icy cold at this moment. "You want me to admit that your Shangguan family's people were killed by my devil class? Good. For example, my devil class's students, even if they are as powerful as the high profound class, with just 60 over people, to be able to slaughter Shangguan family's 300 over people, then your Shangguan family is really weak. I don't know where you have the face to be called as one of the 4 great profound families. Great Master Shangguan, I merely exposed the matter of you colluding with the dark forces yesterday and you're targeting me like this. Trying to push all the blame onto our devil class? A disdainful tone, a ridiculing smile, a mocking gaze. It made the fury in Great Master Shangguan's heart explode at this moment. Yiqing Luo, you slut. Since you dare to do it, then bear the consequences. Don't intentionally drag the topic into other things. Great Master Shangguan turned his head and looked at the main courtyard's elder as he pointed at his knees. Elder, Yiqing is really too stubborn and mischievous. Relying on the fact that he had won the preliminary round, he became unbridled and didn't put the competition's rules in his eyes. He even injured this master. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly when she heard that. That's right, since she dared to do it, she must bear the consequences. If you don't want others to know, then don't do it. Since your Shangguan family dared to collude with the dark forces, then you must bear the consequences of being found out. Blaming everything on me, a young girl, your Shangguan family's face is really big. Her words were sonorous and forceful with righteous words. Every word and sentence was spat out clearly. It was clearly transmitted into everyone's eardrums. The faces of the Shangguan family members turned pale. Whereas when the main courtyard elder heard Yiqing Luo's words, he indeed believed what she said. Early this morning, when they discovered the corpses of hundreds of Shangguan clansmen on the mountainside, everyone was shocked. They were all guessing which deity the Shangguan family had offended to have so many of their people killed without anyone noticing. But after all, it didn't happen to him. The onlookers also didn't think much of it. After today's semi-finals began, only a few teachers and elders were left behind to guard the place. Everyone else had participated in today's semi-finals. The elders of the headquarters did not want to take over such an arduous and unrewarding task. However, the Shangguan clan's first head insisted on making a ruckus in the dormitory and even started fighting with the students in the dormitory. No matter what, it was time for the head elder to come back. The chief dean elder was annoyed. Especially after hearing Yiqing Luo's words, they felt that First Master Shangguan was being unreasonable, pushing everything onto the devil class's head. Chapter 1186. Evidence. First Master Shangguan's gaze was ferocious as he fished out something from his bosom and threw it at Yiqing Luo's face. If there's no evidence, how would Shangguan family be so sure that this slut did it? That thing was the size of a palm and along with the strength in First Master's hand. Coincidentally, it landed right in front of Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and caught that thing. A piece of red cloth. After seeing the cloth clearly, Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted slightly. But the expression on her face was still calm. First Master Shangguan, who was waiting for Yiqing Luo's pale face, had not even had the chance to laugh out loud. Only to see Yiqing Luo's charming eyes looking at him. Her pink lips curled up into a teasing arc. Tisk. So Great Master rushed over to my place early in the morning and pinned the blame of those people who were massacred on my devil class, just to attract my attention. First Master Shangguan was stunned. What was this slut saying? Yiqing Luo covered her mouth as she pretended to be shy and averted her gaze. First Master Shangguan actually admires me so much in order to let me take another look at you. You've really put in a lot of effort. First Master Shangguan was completely stunned. The Shangguan guardians, the devil class students, and the two elders from the main courtyard were all dumbfounded. After some time, First Master Shangguan regained his senses. That terrifying malevolent rough man's face turned steely green and then flushed red. With an embarrassed look, he clenched his fists tightly. Little slut. What rubbish are you sprouting? How could I possibly admire a young lass like you who hasn't even grown out her pubic hair? Don't look at Yiqing Luo's bashful look. But that expression, where was there any shyness? Those words she said, where was there any hint of a lady's modesty? Not to mention that he had no feelings towards Yiqing Luo. Even if he did, she was a lady, an unmarried lady. Saying such narcissistic and shameless words. Was that right? First Master Shangguan's face flushed red as he faced the peculiar gazes from the crowd, and his heart was filled with rage. But he heard Yiqing Luo continuing to laugh. So eldest master likes this kind of thing, liking young lasses who haven't even grown out their hair. Around them, the devil class students could not help but burst out in laughter. This laughter immediately lit up a chord in head Shangguan's mind. He clenched his teeth, putting on a humiliated look as he broke free from the few guards who were dumbstruck by Yiqing Luo's words, as he dashed towards her direction. Little bitch. I'll tear your mouth apart. That thick and solid palm tore towards Yiqing Luo's mouth. Yiqing Luo shook his head helplessly. A brute would always be a brute. Even though he was hurt and crippled, he still didn't learn his lesson. She glanced at the two elders of the General Institute who had ugly expressions on their faces. He didn't use the slogan of self-defense to retaliate in front of the two elders. Moreover, one of these two elders was Ah Feng, who was disguised as Supreme Imo. It was obvious that Ah Feng had a problem with her. If the lady beside Zhou Xian could be chosen by him, Yiqing Luo believed that Ah Feng would absolutely not hesitate to choose Feng Ling and not her. Hence, Yiqing Luo didn't expect Ah Feng to help her. However, the other head elder would definitely not allow anyone to cause trouble in front of him. As expected. Just as First Master Shangguan's hand was about to get close to Yiqing Luo, the elder who was originally standing 5 steps away from them, was already standing in front of Yiqing Luo. Chapter 1187. Eldest Master, since you have the intention to settle the matter, then don't get physical and let others see your Shangguan family as a joke. Eldest Master represented the Shangguan family's image. To hit someone over a disagreement, moreover it was against a 15-year-old young lady. It really damaged the Shangguan family's prestige. Following that, the main elder's gaze shot towards Yiqing Luo. Student Yi, what is that thing in your hand? Yiqing Luo popped out her little head from behind the main elder. Her sly eyes blinked as she revealed a sweet smile. She looked like an innocent and naive young lady. If it wasn't for the fact that she had seen Yiqing Luo's ferocious look when she defeated Shangguan Luli on the stage yesterday, those present would probably be cheated by Yiqing Luo's look. Yiqing Luo raised the cloth in her hand and waved, "This is the cloth for my class uniform." Saying that, she took the initiative to put that piece of cloth at the cuff of her sleeves. That piece of cloth matched perfectly with Yiqing Luo's cuff. After yesterday's competition, I discovered that my cuff is missing a piece. I didn't expect it to be in Eldest Master's hands. Eldest Master even hid my cloth in your bosom. Yiqing Luo passed that piece of cloth back to Great Master Shangguan. I'm really sorry, I'm not interested in you. A man with this kind of image. Moreover, our age difference is just too huge. My father is younger than you. That careful look, thinking of how to reject, made one feel tender towards her. I am indebted to Eldest Master's love, but unfortunately I am unable to give you any response. Now in front of the two elders. Since Eldest Master likes this piece of cloth so much, I shall gift it to you. There was not a single flaw in her words. She even took the opportunity to explain that she gifted this piece of cloth to an admirer who was older than her father, was entirely on account of the two elders. When the main elder saw that, he shook his head helplessly. Eldest master, since student Yi has already made things very clear, don't be so persistent, don't ruin the Shangguan family's reputation again and again. Speaking of this, the main elder's heart was extremely impatient. For such a trivial matter, he had specially rushed back to the dormitory. Adding on to the fact that Shangguan Luli cheated in public and possibly colluded with the dark forces. The chief institute elder's impression of the Shangguan family was getting worse and worse. He furrowed his white brows and looked towards Supreme Emo, who had been silent all this while. Supreme Emo, let's return to the plaza. No, that's not it. This bitch is lying. First Master Shangguan had not expected things to take such a turn just because of a few sentences from Yiqing Luo. He had taken out all the evidence. But with just a few words from Yiqing Luo, she managed to evade it cleanly. Instead, Yiqing Luo labeled him as a pedophile and pervert. That cloth was found halfway up the mountain. First Master Shangguan gritted his teeth as he bellowed. Our Shangguan family's 340 people were all massacred at the back of the mountain, and Yiqing Luo, that slut's cloth, was found there. If you say that the death of Shangguan family's 340 people has nothing to do with Yiqing Luo, I absolutely don't believe it. The main elder's brows creased even tighter as his gaze looked towards Yiqing Luo, waiting for her explanation. Yiqing Luo's brows also creased as her slender brows creased slightly, as her face revealed a sullen expression. First Master, I respect you as a senior and have tolerated you time and time again. If you continue to be so overbearing, then I can only ask the main elder to step forward. Chapter 1188. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips as she bowed respectfully towards the head elder. Elder, eldest master has been overbearing and bullying others too much. As a student participating in the competition, her mood has affected her performance, so I hope elder can help Yiqing Luo to seek justice. Yiqing Luo's words were all within reason. The participating students were being pressured by an aristocratic family. It would indeed affect the students' condition in the competition. What the head elder was in charge of was the fairness of the competition and the students' safety. Immediately, the head elder nodded slowly. As long as this matter has nothing to do with you, this elder will definitely seek justice for you. Yiqing Luo's expression then eased up slightly as she pursed her lips tightly and said word by word. Yesterday after the competition ended, I discovered that my uniform was damaged, but I didn't think too much about it. After all, it's normal for one's clothes to be damaged during the competition. The head elder stroked his beard as he nodded. Yesterday's competition was extremely intense and he could still remember it clearly. The battle between the two earth-profound realms. It was understandable for the clothes to be damaged. May I ask, after yesterday's competition, did the Shangguan family's people die at the rear mountain waste? Yiqing Luo sneered as she asked eldest Master Shangguan. No matter how ignorant eldest Master Shangguan was, he understood the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words. You're still quibbling. This cloth is obviously the cloth which was dropped at the rear mountain when you were massacring my Shangguan family's people. Last night, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed out loud. Yesterday Devil class won the preliminary round and spent the entire day drinking and celebrating in the restaurant. They passed out drunk in the restaurant, and even when they left the restaurant, the students were still hugging their wine jugs excitedly. Our Devil class's students, when they were in a drunken stupor, just based on 60 over people, massacred your Shangguan family's 300 over cultivators. Her lips curled upwards in ridicule as her eyes were filled with ridicule. She was secretly laughing in her heart. This group of youngsters of hers were all reincarnations of drunkards. Last night when they burst forth their profound qi and started the chaotic battle, they didn't forget to seal the wine jugs properly and kept it in their spatial pocket. She wasn't worried that the Shangguan family's people would be able to find the broken pieces of the wine jugs at the scene. You. Eldest Master Shangguan was so angry that he was trembling. He was so angry that he couldn't even say a single word. If the person in question was not him. Hearing Yiqing Luo's questioning, he absolutely didn't believe that Devil class's bunch of trash could massacre the Shangguan family's 300 over people. However, he was clear about one thing. Shangguan family sent out 340 cultivators, just to intercept and kill Yiqing Luo. However, these profounders had died halfway up the mountain. Among the corpses he discovered Yi Qing Luo's uniform. In the entire devil class, only Yi Qing Luo's uniform was embroidered with cherry blossom patterns. 340 people's deaths were absolutely related to Yi Qing Luo. If eldest master still doesn't believe me, the main courtyard can send someone to the restaurant to check if our devil class had been drunk in the restaurant for several hours, and before we left, we even bought 40 over jugs of wine? Yi Qing Luo continued. Yi Qing Luo continued. The head institute's elder looked at the head Shangguan meaningfully. This is a trap. This was premeditated long ago. This cloth was really picked up from the rear mountain waste by me. Eldest Master Shangguan was completely flustered. But no matter what he said, even those Shangguan family's guards behind him who didn't know the truth, all suspected if their eldest master had intentionally pinned such a serious crime onto this young lady's head. Just as Yi Qing Luo heaved a sigh of relief and was prepared to let this matter pass. Chapter 1189. Wind. Indeed, he had a deep opinion of her. Yi Qing Luo wasn't angry as she smiled and looked at Ah Feng. In this case, then I also want to ask, how does First Master prove that this piece of cloth is picked up from the rear mountain waste? Wind's face sunk. He didn't expect Yi Qing Luo to counter with such a question. Just as he was about to continue digging, he wanted to see how witty Yi Qing Luo was. Before he could open his mouth, he heard Yi Qing Luo's sweet voice with a hint of laughter. Yesterday after the competition, I was together with the Imperial Palace's overlord, and when we finally came out of the restaurant, the students were all drunk, so the overlord personally sent us back to the dormitory. Wind's icy cold eyes turned cold. The hand under the white robe clenched into a fist. If Master Mo has any doubts, you can ask the overlord for confirmation, I think. The overlord is very willing to testify for me. Yi Qing Luo continued to smile. Wind. Very good. This woman dared to use the overlord to suppress him. If the overlord knew that he intentionally targeted Yi Qing Luo, he was afraid. The overlord would not hesitate to transfer him away. His heart sunk. Wind was annoyed at himself for not being able to hold it in. But the disdain towards Yi Qing Luo made him unwilling to open his mouth to her. In the end, he just turned his head away with a steely green face. When the main elder heard that this matter involved Zhou Xian, his expression changed immediately. It was just a simple matter if they really dragged Zhou Xian into it. This matter could never be truly resolved. It would get bigger and bigger, and in the end not only the Shangguan family would suffer but the main courtyard as well. Eldest master, if there's nothing else, please leave my dormitory. This is the students' dormitory, not a place for your Shangguan family to strut around. This matter I believe the main courtyard will investigate clearly. If eldest master is not assured, you can follow along with the main courtyard to investigate. As long as we find a clue that is related to my devil class, I will bear all the responsibility. Yi Qing Luo's sonorous voice rang once again. Her eyes were filled with determination and her face was filled with righteousness. Since Yi Qing Luo had said so, the main courtyard naturally believed her words. Otherwise, how could Yi Qing Luo be so calm? Because of that, the elders directly sent head Shangguan and the others away. Yi Qing Luo thanked the elder, and after exchanging some conventional greetings, she sent the both of them off and left the dormitory. Qing Luo, your performance. I give full marks. Boss Qing Luo, did you see that Master Shangguan's expression? It was blacker than charcoal in a pot. I'm almost convinced. Actually, I feel that Master Shangguan has really fallen in love with our boss Qing Luo. Cheers and laughter rose and fell around him. Yi Qing Luo looked at the extremely agitated youngsters as she laughed lightly. All right, just treat this matter as if nothing had happened. Although today is our rest time, but the daily training still cannot be stopped. All of you prepare yourselves and follow Zhan out to train. You're not intending to join us? Long Yunzhan heard that as he glanced sideways at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. The torn piece of clothing was destroyed by the Wolf Saint technique when I entered the underground tunnel to save Xiaoyu. But this piece of clothing appeared at the rear mountain waste. Long Yunzhan's face sunk. You mean? Yi Qing Luo raised one finger. The dark forces can lead Shangguan family to target me, borrowing Shangguan family's power to achieve some kind of goal. Chapter 1190. The appearance of the clothing material at the back of the mountain made Yi Qing Luo realize The dark forces were not affected by the Arch Palace and continued to surround her, thinking of ways to destroy her. The reason why the dark forces were so obsessed with her, was it only because of the profound heart jade in her body? Moreover, such frequent actions, does that mean the King of Darkness urgently needed her profound heart jade? In other words, the seal of the King of Darkness was about to be removed? If that was the case, the world would be in chaos. Little Luo. Old Man Song's voice suddenly resounded in his mind. Did you forget about the divine artifact in the tomb of the Ling King? Right, and a divine artifact. That day in the tomb of the Ling King, the dark forces were clearly very persistent about the divine artifact, the Azure Water Ring. There was a set of 5 vast water divine artifacts. The dark forces had gone to great lengths to obtain the Azure Water Ring, so they would definitely be interested in the other 4 divine artifacts. This divine artifact was probably related to the King of Darkness breaking the seal. As for finding the other 4 vast water divine tools, she needed her profound jade heart to open the seal. The dark forces had always wanted her profound heart jade. He also wanted to use her profound jade heart to open the seal. The dark forces already knew the whereabouts of the other 4 divine artifacts. The Azure Water Divine Artifact belongs to you. You must protect it well. Old Man Song seemed to want to say something, but after hesitating for a while he closed his mouth and didn't say anything else. The other 4 are at. Yiqing Luo was just about to ask about the whereabouts of the god relic when she heard Long Yunzhan's voice. Qing Luo, for the interclass competition to be brought forward, is it against you? As a human dragon, Long Yunzhan had an extremely sharp sense. In this interclass competition, the dark forces had actually injected such a strong Xian qi into Shangguan Liuli, that brainless woman with big breasts. Even the other students of class 2 had been assimilated by the Xian qi. It was obvious that he wanted the devil class to lose. Yiqing Luo and Shangguan Liuli had made a blood oath. The price of losing was that Yiqing Luo's meridians would be completely broken and she would destroy her own profound jade heart. The dark forces used such unscrupulous methods. It was probably because of Yiqing Luo's profound heart jade. Yiqing Luo knitted her brows tightly. Feng Ling's appearance at the back of the mountain is also very strange. She would definitely not be so kind as to specially rush over to save us. That piece of cloth, could it be her? Long Yunzhan heard the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words and his expression instantly congealed. Yiqing Luo shook her head slowly. I can't be sure, but if the cloth really belonged to her and she specially left it at the back of the mountain, then it would confirm my guess. Wind Chimes has already started working with the forces of darkness. In this case, the Imperial Palace would also be involved. I'll go look for Zhou Xian and tell him about this. This matter couldn't be dragged on and had to be told to Zhou Xian as soon as possible. They would strive to make Zhou Xian take precautionary measures before the dark forces made their next move. After Yiqing Luo left the dormitory, the first thing she did was to rush over to the West Continent. If he wanted to find Zhou Xian, he would naturally have to ask Wind. Yiqing Luo then realized that it seemed that it was always Zhou Xian who came to look for her. Moreover, no matter where she was, Zhou Xian would be able to find her. And when she wanted to look for Zhou Xian, she had to go through Wind. Yiqing Luo expressed that it was unfair. It was extremely unfair. When she arrived at the West Continent, the arena was in the midst of the second round of the semi-finals. In today's competition, other than Devil Class and Intermediate Profound Class 2 who had been removed from the list, there were only 5 classes left to compete. And among these 5 classes, only 3 classes would be able to enter tomorrow's finals. Chapter 1191. Therefore, the atmosphere of today's competition was much livelier than yesterday. There were no funny elements like Devil Class. There were no tricks like using external elements to cheat. All of them were real talents competing against each other. Everyone's gazes were on the arena. Yiqing Luo's arrival didn't attract much attention. Yiqing Luo had the academy's wooden token and easily entered the waiting area. The waiting area was filled with students from High Profound Class 2. Passing through the waiting area, one would be able to reach the backstage of the arena. She had just quietly walked to the backstage when she heard a disdainful sneer. Isn't this the first place in the preliminary round, Devil Class's student Yi? What wind blew you here? Yiqing Luo's mind was filled with looking for Ah Feng and had no energy to bother about the students from High Profound Class 2. But that person was obviously jealous because she didn't manage to get first place yesterday. Seeing that Yiqing Luo turned a deaf ear to her, she walked over directly and tugged at her collar. A gust of wind blew and the female student felt a dull pain in her wrist. She cried out and retracted her hand as she took a few steps back. Xuelon. Student Lu Xuelon. A few students from High Profound Class 2 immediately went forward to support Lu Xuelon. Yiqing Luo's slender brows were tightly knitted as she withdrew the profound energy in her hands and looked at them indifferently. I have something urgent, don't bother me. Suddenly. The male student standing next to Lu Xuelon had a solemn expression on his face. The reason why Devil Class took first place, you know it clearly in your heart. Don't think that just because Devil Class took first place in the preliminary round, you can be complacent and look down on others. That tone, that attitude. It was exactly like when he was preaching to the younger generation. Yiqing Luo frowned as her brows were filled with impatience. It seems that I've never put you in my eyes, so don't put gold on your face. The implication was that Devil Class didn't get first place. She, Yiqing Luo, didn't put the students from High Profound Class 2 in her eyes. That male student's long speech was suddenly stuck in his throat as his face sunk and turned green. Yiqing Luo glanced at Lu Xuelon from the corner of her eyes as her lips twitched in disdain. I really don't know how you entered High Profound Class 2, thinking that you're the strongest in the entire academy? It seems like your intelligence isn't that good. Yiqing Luo's eyes were masked with a trace of ridicule. She raised her brows and laughed coldly. The one who defeated you guys was Intermediate Profound Class 2. It has nothing to do with me. If you feel that you lost in the second round yesterday and lost the face of your High Profound Class 2, if you want to regain your confidence, then go look for Intermediate Class 2. Blocking me here, is this the style of your High Profound Class 2? He spoke one sentence after another as if he wasn't even out of breath. A cold glint flashed past Yiqing Luo's charming eyes as her eyes were filled with ridicule. High Profound Class 2's other students, who were originally sitting by the side indifferently, were all infuriated by Yiqing Luo's words. A few students with a fiery temper directly stood up from their seats as they furiously charged towards Yiqing Luo. What nonsense are you talking about? If not for the fact that Intermediate Profound Class 2 colluded with the Dark Forces and used the Dark Forces' forbidden arts to raise their strength, how could we possibly lose to Intermediate Profound Class 2? Yiqing Luo smiled. Really? Then why was Devil Class able to get first place against Intermediate Profound Class 2, who used the Dark Forces' forbidden arts to raise their strength to Earth Profound 6th grade? Chapter 1192. If Devil Class also lost to Intermediate Profound Class 2, they still had a chance. After Intermediate Profound Class 2's Profound Yin Qi was exposed, they could request for another battle with Devil Class. Then they could obtain the first place in the preliminary round. But Devil Class won. And it was a crushing victory over the cheating Intermediate Profound Class 2. They were like eggplants that had been hit by frost, wilting. Similarly against Intermediate Profound Class 2, who cheated. High Profound Class 2 couldn't win. Devil Class, who was despised by everyone and treated as a joke, had won. They had no right to issue another challenge to Devil Class. However, they were the second most talented class in the Heavenly Academy, second only to the class of gods. They were hailed as the strongest class in the entire academy apart from the freaks in the class of gods. But in this round of competition they had lost all their face. Not comparable to Intermediate Profound Class 2, not comparable to Devil Class. Their existence was simply a joke. Coming to take part in the semi-finals today, they had already received quite a number of mocking gazes and disdainful rolls of eyes. It seemed like everyone was mocking the incompetence of High Profound Class 2. Yesterday's arrogant High Profound Class 2. Today all of them were holding in their anger like mute people hiding in the waiting area. When they saw Yiqing Luo appearing, the swelling anger in their hearts finally vented out uncontrollably. The huge commotion in the waiting area of High Profound Class 2 had attracted the attention of others. Quite a number of gazes had already turned over. The main elder's gaze also followed the sound. Lu Xuelon and the others' faces turned pale instantly. Nestled in the arms of the male student, the injured Lu Xuelon clenched her teeth. The expression on her face was filled with fear. While clutching her injured hand, she moved closer to the direction of High Profound Class 2. From one look, it was obvious that Yiqing Luo was bullying the students of High Profound Class 2. Yiqing Luo had no intention to explain. Seeing Lu Xuelon and these obstructing dogs finally moved away. She walked directly towards the backstage, not even sparing them a glance. Student Yi. Lu Shuiyu suddenly stood up as her icy cold gaze looked at Yiqing Luo's back. Tomorrow High Profound Class 2 will go all out. Yiqing Luo's footsteps paused slightly as she turned her head sideways, her eyes curved, holding a smile which didn't look like a smile. I hope you will really go all out and not learn the tragedy of Intermediate Profound Class 2. Lu Shuiyu's expression changed slightly. Yiqing Luo didn't say anything else as she had already walked into the backstage. The hatred between High Profound Class 2 and Devil Class. It was also enough for the Dark Forces to make use of High Profound Class 2. Not a single one from Intermediate Profound 2. Another High Profound Class 2. As long as humans were greedy, resentful, the Dark Forces would have something on them and would devour them completely. When she reached the backstage, Ah Feng was already waiting for her there. Yiqing Luo politely greeted the masters around her and walked over to Ah Feng, her lips curled into a smile. Supreme Immortal, her voice was filled with flattery. Her voice was soft and charming as if it could melt one's bones. Ah Feng shuddered and his face turned green and black. Was this woman taking revenge on him on purpose? If the Overlord were to see her in this state, the Overlord would definitely hack her into pieces. Supreme Master Mo is the substitute teaching master of Devil Class. I have some matters which I would like to ask Supreme Master Mo alone. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly as her crafty eyes were filled with rippling luster. Ah Feng's body tensed up as he replied with a deep N. The two of them walked towards the temporary resting room at the backstage. Chapter 1193. Yiqing Luo sensed and confirmed that there was no one around. Where is Zhou Xian? Do you have any way to contact him? She asked her motive directly. Win's expression congealed, that handsome face with Supreme was suffused with a trace of coldness. This disguise skill was so superb that it could pass off as the real thing. Even the changes in his pores and expression were so real that one couldn't differentiate it. Totally couldn't tell that it was a disguise. Yiqing Luo clearly saw the flash of coldness on Win's face and the icy coldness in his eyes. She frowned slightly as she suppressed the displeasure in her heart and repeated, I have an urgent matter to look for Zhou Xian. Win's expression congealed once again. It was as if a layer of frost had formed on his face. Yiqing Luo knew that Wind hated her. Especially hated her for pestering Zhou Xian. But she had not expected that Wind's hatred towards her had reached such a stage. She merely asked for Zhou Xian's contact details and he treated her with such hatred. Yiqing Luo's brows knitted even tighter as her pink lips pursed into a line. Wind, you're Zhou Xian's guard. On account of Zhou Xian's face I won't haggle with you. I have an urgent matter to look for Zhou Xian. Haggle. Wind, who was silent for a while, slowly spat out two words. He laughed lightly as the icy coldness in his eyes became more obvious. You're haggling with me. He had been brought into the imperial palace by Zhou Xian since young. Zhou Xian gave him a life that he had never had since he wandered outside. Although Zhou Xian was cold towards him. But Zhou Xian gave him a home that could shelter him from the wind and rain. Later on, when the imperial palace's grandma selected 4 guards for Zhou Xian, he joined them without any hesitation. After 5 long years of struggle. In the arduous training, life-threatening missions, killing each other with his own comrades and finally standing out. He finally stood beside Zhou Xian. He had always believed in Zhou Xian as his own god. Even if he had to lose his life for Zhou Xian, he was willing. But the god he believed in had fallen because of a trash, arrogant and despotic woman. In Win's eyes, Yiqing Luo was an unbearable woman. There was no gentleness of a woman. There wasn't the slightest hint of a woman's gentleness. Relying on Zhou Xian's favor, he made use of Zhou Xian's power time and time again to achieve his own goals. He who only wanted to stay by Zhou Xian's side, was also sent to Yiqing Luo's side. In order to protect Zhou Xian, he worked hard to become the strongest guard. Yet he was forcefully sent to secretly protect a woman that he looked down on. Wind's dissatisfaction towards Yiqing Luo grew by the day. Wind couldn't help but sneer in his heart. In his eyes, Yiqing Luo was in a hurry to look for Zhou Xian. Wasn't it because she wanted to show off to him? Wanted to complain to Zhou Xian and punish him? He had followed this narrow-minded girl for a few months and had long seen through her. Pa! The crisp sound of a slap resounded throughout the lounge. Yiqing Luo kept her numb and burning hand as her lips curled into a faint smile. She squinted her eyes as she gazed at Win's. So realistic that she could clearly see the clear palm print on that face as she sneered. Wind, you're Xian's guard and are loyal to Xian, so I've tolerated you several times. But that doesn't mean that I'm very patient. She had never been a patient person. Especially when her patience was exhausted, she would not tolerate any further. Win's words were rude and disrespectful to her. There were a few times where he targeted her openly and secretly, but as it was a harmless matter, she just let Wind be. But now she was looking for Dmo Xian urgently. Chapter 1194. Towards people who didn't like her. Yiqing Luo didn't need to show him any face. You. Feng covered his face with his hand. His frozen eyes were suddenly filled with rage. He gritted his teeth as he stared at Yiqing Luo resentfully. As though it wanted to skin Yiqing Luo alive. Ever since he was brought back to the palace by Dmo Xian, he had never suffered such humiliation. No one could leave such a humiliating slap on his face. This woman, she actually dared to hit him. Since you like the hard way, then I'll do it with you. Yiqing Luo scoffed as she grabbed his collar. The main elder's robe was extremely loose. Yiqing Luo used a little strength and easily lifted Feng up. She sneered as there was no emotion in her eyes. No matter what you think of me, remember it well. I am the woman chosen by Xian and also your future mistress. Your disrespect to me is equivalent to disrespecting Xian. Now I'm executing my future rites to teach you a lesson on behalf of Xian. Are you convinced? Yiqing Luo said it word by word. Every word was like a bell as it fell into Win's ears. Win's body tensed up as the anger on his face grew. Shameless. She had yet to marry into his family and already claimed to be his future mistress. How could she be so certain that the overlord would marry her in future? No matter what the future is, at least for now, the woman who is acknowledged by Xian is me. After Yiqing Luo finished her sentence, her fingers loosened. Win's body was like a broken kite as he fell onto the ground. He was still tensed up as he clenched his fists tightly and his entire body was trembling. A 17-year-old young man who was brought back to the palace by Dmo Xian at the age of 8 and stood beside him at the age of 14. He had accompanied Dmo Xian for 3 years. He was very clear that this time he was going to leave Dmo Xian's side completely. This woman, a vengeful woman, would not let him off. Seeing Wind still sitting on the ground in a daze, not saying a word. Yiqing Luo's patience was exhausted. Tell me Xian's contact method. If you don't tell me, I'll barge into the Arch Palace myself. Feng raised his head and looked at the extremely impatient and anxious woman in front of him. He laughed softly and said, I can contact Dizun. Tell him that I'm looking for him. I'll be waiting for him at the dormitory. Yiqing Luo dropped this sentence and left without even turning her head back. She wasn't worried that Wind hated her and purposely didn't pass her words to Dmo Xian. Since Feng was willing to say it, he would definitely do it. Furthermore, Yiqing Luo believed that Win's respect towards Dmo Xian was genuine. No matter how much Feng disliked her. She was also Dmo Xian's woman. This was an indisputable fact. Returning to the dormitory, Long Yunzhan had already brought the devil-class students to the dense forest at the back of the mountain for training. Yiqing Luo directly returned to her own room. Not long after entering the Azure Dew bracelet to train her profound qi, Yiqing Luo sensed someone approaching her. She withdrew her divine sense, opened her eyes and came face to face with a pair of sparkling peach blossom eyes. That peerless face was close at hand, emitting a dazzling temptation. Her hands stretched out and circled around his waist, burying her face into his abdomen. Xian. Dmo Xian's large palm caressed the back of her head, looking at her lovingly. Why are you in such a hurry to find me? Did you miss me? Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked around, her curly long eyelashes forming a shadow on her face. Chapter 1195. Do you want it or not? Dmo Xian raised his brows as he looked at her. Yiqing Luo replied honestly, yes, but I'm looking for you not only because I miss you. It's rare that Lil Luo takes the initiative to look for me. Tell me, what's the urgent matter? Dmo Xian's fingers went into Yiqing Luo's hair as he gently caressed it. His slightly calloused fingertips brushed past her scalp. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled slightly as she slowly lowered her eyes. Her heart inexplicably pounded like a drum. She couldn't help but moved her head as she rubbed against his slender fingers. "Ah Xian, has Feng Ling returned to the imperial palace?" The large palm on the back of her head paused as the man's deep voice floated down from above. "Did she find trouble with you?" "Currently, other than you, no one else can find trouble with me." Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips. "In that case she really looked for you." Dmo Xian's fingers slid to her lower jaw as he slightly exerted force and met her charming eyes. "Why did she look for you?" His expression was calm as his shimmering peach blossom eyes were filled with that thick pampering. Yiqing Luo's long curly lashes fluttered. "What do you think she would look for me for?" Dmo Xian remained silent. His pupils were as resplendent as obsidian as he gazed at her. After some time, his brows creased slightly as he revealed a sliver of helplessness. "I shouldn't have asked her to come over." Why was it that Yiqing Luo was trapped by the enchantment back then? If it wasn't for the enchantment, he wouldn't need to specially call Feng Ling over. Feng Ling, she was too much of a troublemaker. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips as she caught his large palm. "If she really bullied me, what would you do?" She asked this question not to probe who was more important in Dmo Xian's heart or something as senseless as that. But she wanted to know from Dmo Xian's mouth what position Feng Ling held in his heart, as well as the extent of his respect towards the imperial palace's granny. After all, Feng Ling really cooperated with the dark forces. Dmo Xian would have to make a choice sooner or later. "What does little Luo think I will do?" Dmo Xian hugged her slender waist tightly as he asked in a low voice. Yiqing Luo was encircled in his embrace. Her little body nudged and climbed onto his shoulder, her arms circling around his neck as her pink lips moved close to his ear. "I want to hear you say it." The fragrance of a woman seeped into his nose. Her warm breath was faintly discernible on his skin. Dmo Xian's eyes darkened and the arm that was encircling her delicate body tightened. Good girl, she actually learned how to seduce him. If it wasn't for her, he didn't want others to see Yiqing Luo's beauty. He didn't mind. He directly followed Lil Luo's seduction, pressing her down and eating her clean. Closing his eyes, Dmo Xian held back his desire and wrapped his arms around her tightly, as if he wanted to integrate her into his body. "You are my only reverse scale." Dmo Xian's thin lips stuck to the side of her ear as he said it word by word. Yiqing Luo's body was completely limp. Reverse scale. His only reverse scale. Which meant to say that in this world, there was nothing, no one who was more important than her. Which meant to say that if Feng Ling really did something harmful to her, he would not care about Granny's face and show mercy to Feng Ling. Which meant to say that for her he could give up everything. Her heart softened at this moment. Tears welled up in her eyes for some reason. These were tears of happiness. She hugged Dmo Xian's neck tightly as her heart was filled with sweetness. Chapter 1196. Yiqing Luo was concise and comprehensive as she narrated the entire sequence of events as well as her own guesses. Until she finished talking about the possibility of Feng Ling collaborating with the dark forces, she paused slightly. "Ah Xian, if Feng Ling is really collaborating with the dark forces, it will definitely implicate the imperial palace." Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. "And now you're provoking the imperial palace with great fanfare, and wanting to destroy Wolf Saint's forces. When Feng Ling's matter is exposed, everyone will feel that you're slapping your own face." What she didn't want the most was to see Dmo Xian being implicated because of her matters. The imperial palace was Dmo Xian's blood and sweat. She didn't wish for the imperial palace to be destroyed in Feng Ling's hands. "I know." Dmo Xian held her little hand tightly as he placed it by his lips and kissed it. "I'll settle this matter, you don't need to worry. Just lead the devil class to take part in the competition and win the position of the champion." Yiqing Luo didn't try to show off and wanted to settle this matter together with Dmo Xian. Instead, she nodded her head obediently. This matter not only implicated her and Dmo Xian, and the entire imperial palace. She hadn't really married Dmo Xian, so naturally it wasn't good for her to interfere in this matter. Just Wind alone already had a lot of opinions about her. Yiqing Luo didn't want to become the hated target of everyone in the imperial palace before she even married into the family. This thought surfaced in her mind. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red as she suddenly plunged into Dmo Xian's arms. She was actually thinking about marrying Dmo Xian? She was actually considering marrying into the family. She wanted to get married so badly. What's the matter? Sensing the lady's inexplicable shyness, he lifted her chin as he asked in a deep voice, "What shameful matter are you thinking about again?" Yiqing Luo's cheeks turned even redder. Shameful matter? Why did the sentence sound so weird? Seeing Yiqing Luo's cheeks turning even redder, Dmo Xian's deep peach blossom eyes turned even darker. The hand which locked onto Yiqing Luo's waist increased its strength once again. He bent over and his voice was hoarse with magnetism. "If Lil Luo wants, I'll come over tonight and repeat the things you're thinking about, alright?" Yiqing Luo. They were definitely not thinking about the same thing. What she wanted was to marry Dmo Xian. Over and over again. Even if he was willing, she would find it tiring. In ancient times, the phoenix coronet and robes were simply too heavy. That kind of tiredness for Dmo Xian once was enough. But what Dmo Xian was thinking? It was definitely something indescribable. Men were indeed animals that thought with the lower half of their body. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes as she cupped his cheeks with both her hands and directly placed her lips on his as she planted a fierce kiss on his lips. Indeed, it was just a seal. Immediately she pushed Dmo Xian away. "Go back and continue with your work." He hadn't even tasted her and was forcefully pushed away, and now he was being chased back. Dmo Xian expressed his unwillingness. Hence, his long arms scooped and locked Yiqing Luo in his arms as he lowered his head and bit her lips. He didn't let go of her until he had thoroughly tasted her from inside out. Yiqing Luo was in a daze from the kiss as she laid limply in his arms, panting heavily. "Nothing else you want to tell me?" Dmo Xian clicked his tongue in satisfaction as he hugged Yiqing Luo contentedly as he sat down by the bed. Yiqing Luo's little face flushed red as she rubbed against his arms but didn't make a sound. Dmo Xian gave a low laugh as he lowered his head, insisting on meeting Yiqing Luo's eyes. Chapter 1197. Dmo Xian was stunned. He lowered his eyes to look at Yiqing Luo's bashful look as he laughed softly. So his Lil Luo thought that he wanted her to say some sweet nothings? His Lil Luo was really adorable. Dmo Xian hugged her body tightly as he lowered his head and fiercely nibbled on her lips. "Don't you want to complain to me about how wind is against you?" Yiqing Luo frowned. "What has it got to do with wind? Wind has already told me everything." Dmo Xian pinched her nose. "My Lil Luo's temper has always been bad. You think a slap can appease your anger?" Yiqing Luo was speechless. In the end, she burst out laughing. Wind was worried that she would add oil and vinegar to complain to Dmo Xian. So she took the initiative to surrender? No wonder when Wind heard that she wanted to look for Dmo Xian, he revealed such a cold and disdainful expression. This Wind, wasn't he thinking too much? Her slender fingers cupped Dmo Xian's face as she slowly shook her head and smiled. "I've never blamed Wind. That slap was to let him understand his own position. I'm after all the woman standing beside you. If I can't even settle your guards, then in this huge imperial palace, there's no place for me to stay?" Dmo Xian gently caressed her hair as his thin lips moved slightly. "Your place is in my heart." Yiqing Luo stared at him. He started flirting just because of a disagreement. Could they still discuss things happily? Following that, suppressing the pink bubbles in her heart, she pouted and continued, "Anyway, let's just leave Wind's matter like this. How much he dislikes me represents how much he respects you. A person who is willing to sacrifice his life for you and treats you sincerely, I won't haggle over anything." Dmo Xian's deep eyes gazed deeply at the person in his arms. Her words directly stabbed into the bottom of his heart. His peripheral vision glanced at a certain place. He tightened his arms as his chin rested on her shoulder as he laughed in a low and hoarse voice. "Lilu, I'm finding it harder and harder to let go of you." He knew Yiqing Luo's character better than anyone else. He would definitely take revenge for the smallest grievance and would not allow himself to be taken advantage of. If someone offended her by a foot, she would definitely return the favor by a foot. For example, Wind's actions and several bad attitudes were enough to make Yiqing Luo take action against Wind. But Yiqing Luo didn't have any grudges. Instead, he felt that Ah Feng's actions were reasonable. All of this was because of Ah Feng's loyalty to him. It was only because of him. How could he not love such a little Luo heir? "You say it as if you will let go of me." Yiqing Luo patted the back of his hand as she grumbled unhappily. "Never, never." Xian hugged her even tighter. His deep and serene eyes were filled with deep affection. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a smile. If he didn't let go, she wouldn't let go either. Xian, regarding Feng's matter, you don't have to blame him. Call him back to your side. I don't need any special protection. Yiqing Luo said gently, I don't like people following me in the dark. Xian shook his head. The dark forces were still extending their claws and fangs. The current Yiqing Luo's ability was far from enough to go against the dark forces. It wasn't only Wind who wanted to specially follow by Yiqing Luo's side. He intended to send more men to protect Yiqing Luo in the dark. As though she saw through Xian's thoughts, she slowly hugged Xian's waist tightly as she buried her face into his chest. Chapter 1198. Xian's smile turned gentler as his eyes were filled with adoration. As though in this entire world his eyes could only accommodate her alone. His Lil Luo, or such a stubborn young lady. He believed that one day in the future, this intelligent and quick-witted young lady would definitely grow to the point where everyone would willingly bow down to her. Wind, come in. He cleared his throat and opened his mouth to call out. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she didn't understand what he meant. She raised her head and looked at Xian as she was about to ask. But she acutely sensed that the window was opened and a gust of cold wind blew in. She turned her head back abruptly. She saw a delicate figure standing by her bedside. Wasn't that Wind? At this moment, Feng had already removed Supreme Mo's makeup, revealing a delicate and slightly childish face. His entire body was stiff as his muscles tensed up. His face was drained of blood as he was expressionless. The minute he sensed Yiqing Luo's gaze, Wind's knees bent as he knelt down with a put-ong sound. His voice was icy cold as he said word by word, Miss Yi, I'm sorry for suspecting you. Yiqing Luo blinked as she gazed at Xian. She saw him raising his brows as he looked at her with a smile which didn't look like a smile, with a look that said, do whatever you want. Yiqing Luo understood. From the beginning, Feng had been listening to their conversation outside the window. And all these were incited by Xian. Xian had not expected Wind's hatred towards Yiqing Luo to be so deep. Luckily, although Wind didn't like Yiqing Luo, but for Xian he didn't take the opportunity to do anything overboard to her. What was the motive for Xian to make Wind stand outside the window? Naturally it was to let Wind see for himself that Yiqing Luo wasn't the kind of person he had imagined. Seeking revenge for the smallest grievance was towards outsiders. The loyal and sincere Wind was not considered as an outsider to Yiqing Luo. At this moment, Wind's heart was in turmoil as he was extremely apprehensive. All along Yiqing Luo's image in his heart had long been deeply rooted. But today it completely made him view her seriously again. Wind believed that with Xian's character he wouldn't leak any information to Yiqing Luo first and let her put up a show in front of him. Xian disdained to do so. He didn't expect that. The reason why Yiqing Luo was in a hurry to look for Xian wasn't because of any complaints. It was really an urgent matter. It was an urgent matter concerning the imperial palace. She had even described his feelings towards Xian so thoroughly. It was as if she knew him very well. He even advised Xian not to vent his anger on him, and asked Xian to send him back. Of course this wasn't because Yiqing Luo despised him, but because he only wanted to stay by Xian's side, to protect Xian alone. Feng's gaze towards Yiqing Luo slowly changed his expression. He would always remember the girl in Dizun's arms. Her eyes shone with determination as she said each word as if she was making an oath. I will work hard to grow until I have the qualifications to stand by your side. I will make everyone acknowledge my existence. At that moment, Feng seemed to see a ray of hope in that girl. Inexplicably, he believed that in the near future, this young girl would definitely be able to make everyone acknowledge her. In the West Continent, the tournament was in progress. High Profound Class 2 was agitated by Yiqing Luo earlier and their emotions were unable to calm down for a long time. All of them clenched their fists tightly as their veins popped out. They had always been a high and mighty existence in the academy. Now they were humiliated by a waste of a class student? Chapter 1199. How could the arrogant High Profound Class 2 students feel at ease? Hundreds of them sat angrily at the waiting area, not daring to open their mouths, but in their hearts, They had already cursed the Devil Class and Intermediate Profound Class 2. On the stage, Low Profound Class 2 and Intermediate Profound Class 1 were locked in battle. The preliminary round was a group fight between 10 students, whereas the semi-final round was directly raised to a group fight between 50 students. The more the number of people, the longer the competition would last. High Profound Class 2 always felt that the gazes of the surrounding people were looking at them with disdain. Those people lowered their heads and discussed animatedly, mocking the sorry state they had been in yesterday. They wanted to leave this place, they couldn't stay any longer. But they had to stay until the last moment of the competition. The wooden lot drawn by the High Profound Class 2 was against the Low Profound Class 1. It was another battle without any suspense. The High Profound Class 2 students originally wanted to take advantage of today to wash away yesterday's humiliation. But today God was playing a joke on them again. Drawing Low Profound Class 1. Even if he won, it was within reason. It couldn't be any more normal. Lost. It was absolutely impossible for the High Profound Class 2 to lose. They would never believe that there would be a second Yiqing Luo in the Low Profound Class 1. Just as the crowd was filled with anxiety, gritting their teeth and cursing, the arena competition was not over yet. A tall figure passed through the crowd, slowly walked over. His arrival did not cause much of a commotion. After all, the arena competition was already in an exciting atmosphere. If one missed a detail, it was possible to miss the details of the student's victory. That person accurately walked towards the High Profound Class 2 waiting area. Sensing someone approaching, the High Profound Class 2 students revealed an unfriendly expression, staring fiercely at the approaching person. When their line of sight landed on that person, the expression on their face suddenly became timid. President. Lu Shuiyu was the first to stand up. Her usually expressionless cold face revealed a trace of smile the moment she saw the approaching person. President, why are you here? This person was the gentle as jade Xian Mu. His expression was gentle, and his green and white uniform made him look even more delicate and elegant. The invisible release of nobility made one's heart palpitate. Xian Mu smiled warmly. Vice President, there is something urgent in the faculty council that needs you to deal with. Lu Shuiyu was startled. She had been by Xian Mu's side for so many years and was very clear about his little habits. Naturally, she understood that Xian Mu was not someone who needed an assistant. If she wasn't there, or if there was no way to deal with it in time, Xian Mu would handle all the matters of the faculty council in an orderly manner. How could there be something urgent that she had to deal with? However, this was the first time Xian Mu asked her for help. The taste of happiness filled his heart. Without the slightest hesitation, she handed over the matter of the class competition to Lu Shuilan and left with Xian Mu on the pretext of dealing with urgent matters in the faculty council. Following behind Xian Mu, Lu Shuiyu's heart that had been sealed for a long time at this moment, it couldn't help but beat violently. She looked at Xian Mu's back in a daze. Even the view of his back made her crazy. This was her president. Lu Shuiyu's lips curled into a smile. Shuiyu. Suddenly, the man in front of him stopped in his tracks. That gentle voice made Lu Shuiyu feel like she was dreaming. She looked at Xian Mu blankly, that gentle eyebrow crying out her love for the smile. Shuiyu. Chapter 1200. His gentle voice made Lu Shuiyu a little dazed. Immediately, Xian Mu's warm palm had already covered her cheek. Lu Shuiyu was shocked and ecstasy surged into her heart. The president actually took the initiative to touch her face? And so gentle, as if he was treating something precious. The strong masculine scent made Lu Shuiyu's breathing quickened and she felt dizzy. She recalled that not long ago Xian Mu was also so gentle to her. He would care about her injured hand and treat her wound. It was because of this gentleness. It made Lu Shuiyu sink into it again and again, unable to extricate herself from his gentle trap. Look at you, absent-minded. Could it be that you are worried about the competition later? Xian Mu helplessly pinched her face. You should believe in your own ability, believe in the ability of High Profound Class 2. This pampering and gentle tone was something Lu Shuiyu had never heard before. She was completely dumbfounded. Her beautiful eyes widened and stared at Xian Mu in a daze. There was no longer that aloof and noble look on her face. She was no different from an ordinary girl. Xian Mu's palms slowly moved to her hair and rubbed it. You are the vice president of the faculty council. I believe in you. You will definitely be able to lead the high profound class 2 to win the title of the champion in the inter-class competition. Lu Shuiyu's heart was beating wildly. Xianmu's warmth covered her whole body. She almost fainted in his scent. President. Lu Shuiyu stuttered as she called Xianmu. Her face was blushing. Anyone would know her feelings for Xianmu. However, Xianmu quickly withdrew his hand. A trace of disdain flashed across his gentle eyes, but it disappeared in an instant. Immersed in Xianmu's sudden gentleness, Lu Shuiyu did not notice anything strange about him. Shuiyu, you can relax. Xianmu continued to comfort her. Low profound class 1 will only be low profound class 1, it will never be like the devil class, there will be a second Yiqing Luo. After saying that, he sighed lightly. Student Yi is indeed a rare talent. The intermediate profound class 2 colluded with the dark forces and advanced to the earth profound 6th grade, but was still easily crushed by Student Yi. Student Yi was in the class of gods, she would definitely have a better future. He seemed to be murmuring to himself. He suddenly realized that he had said too much. He chuckled softly. His face that was as gentle as water revealed a hint of embarrassment as he immediately explained. When I was in the faculty council, I heard quite a number of teachers discussing about the miraculous news student created last night, so I specially came to the West Continent, hoping to witness the splendor of the devil class. The more I listen, the more I speak. His explanation caused Lu Shuiyu's expression to become even more stiff. He clenched his fists tightly. Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo. It was always Yiqing Luo. As someone who understood Xianmu, how could she not know that if Xianmu mentioned a person so frequently, it meant that he had a great interest in that person? Xianmu admired Yiqing Luo. Ever since Yiqing Luo became famous in the Ling Wang's tomb and returned to the academy, Lu Shuiyu had this feeling. That time she heard from Xianmu's mouth that he admired and praised Yiqing Luo. It aroused her hatred and jealousy towards Yiqing Luo. She did not hesitate to make use of the Lu family's power to send a large number of killers to intercept Yiqing Luo when she was heading to the Alchemist Guild to participate in the alchemy competition. Unexpectedly, Yiqing Luo escaped a calamity, and even provoked Zhou Xian, the overlord of the Imperial Palace. Chapter 1201. Fortunately, she was smart. She knew Yiqing Luo was insidious and cunning. When she arranged the killers, she used the name of the collateral relatives. The collateral relatives were secretly exterminated by the Imperial Palace. At least the Lu family escaped. Lu Shuiyu did not dare to make any other moves after that. Unexpectedly, Xianmu's admiration for Yiqing Luo had deepened. As long as Yiqing Luo did not die, her president, her Xianmu, would be completely seduced by that little slut, by that vixen. Shuiyu, your face. Why is it so ugly? Xianmu's gentle voice called Lu Shuiyu back to her senses. Xianmu frowned, his fingers gently stroked the sweat on Lu Shuiyu's forehead. My comfort instead gave you more pressure? No. Lu Shuiyu immediately shook her head. President believes in my ability, I am very happy. Xianmu smiled warmly like a spring breeze. Silly girl, actually even if you lose tomorrow there is no harm. After all, the opponent is Student Yi. As long as you fight well in this battle you can learn fighting skills, cooperation with students and so on. It is not bad. These words seemed to be comforting Lu Shuiyu. But in Lu Shuiyu's ears there was only one meaning. Xianmu said, she was not as good as Yiqing Luo. He could not beat Yiqing Luo. Tomorrow's competition her high profound class 2 would lose to devil class. This sentence deeply provoked Lu Shuiyu. The tight string in her brain broke. President, in tomorrow's competition, my high profound class 2 will definitely win. I will definitely defeat Yiqing Luo. Lu Shuiyu clenched her fist, urgently needed to prove to Xianmu that she could be stronger than Yiqing Luo. She anxiously grabbed Xianmu's arm with both hands. President, you have to believe me. I will be more outstanding than Yiqing Luo. Shuiyu. Xianmu called out to her with a worried look. But under Lu Shuiyu's firm gaze he slowly lost. He sighed softly, withdrew his hand and stroked her head. If this is what Shuiyu wants, I will do my best to help you. I have a way to help the High Xian class 2 win the championship. If Shuiyu needs it, come and find me today. Xianmu took out a leaf from his waist and handed it to Lu Shuiyu. Lu Shuiyu was startled and took the leaf. Looking down, the name of a place appeared on the leaf. President, this Lu Shuiyu's heart tightened. Xian Mu smiled warmly. Go back quickly, the high profound class 2 should be competing in the arena in a while. As the class monitor you can't be absent for too long. I'll wait for you here at midnight. That gentle tone and those ambiguous words. This caused Lu Shuiyu to blush. She closed the leaf in her hand and bowed to Xian Mu. Immediately, like a shy little girl, she shyly left. Until Lu Shuiyu's figure completely disappeared. Xian Mu, who was originally smiling warmly, suddenly showed a disgusted look on his face. He took out a handkerchief and forcefully wiped his palm that had just touched Lu Shuiyu. His face was full of disgust. He was cursing in a low voice. Suddenly he felt a warmth on his back and an arm wrapped around his waist. A low husky voice rang in his ear. The beauty's smell is so sweet, why is Mu still so disgusted? Xian Mu's disgusted face was immediately replaced by joy. He immediately turned his head and looked up at the man who was half a head taller than him. He wrapped his arms around his neck. Ah Xiang, why are you here?